Association football as we know it today was given rise to by the posh public schoolboys of the 1800s. It was an amateur game, they didn't want any money in the game, and it was to be played between the big posh schools like Eton, and they were the original clubs who made up the teams that played in the first ever association football competition that is still kind of running to this day, the FA Cup. Britain industrialised during the 1800s and early 1900s. Leisure time for the workers shot up as they'd start to have weekends off. Sundays were a day off, but Saturdays were only a half day. Saturdays weren't a full part of the weekend for a lot later. But yeah, football started to really rise amongst the working class people of Britain when the industrial world started to give them a little bit more time off. I've made videos about football clubs in some of the most deprived areas in the UK, and that is not to have a shot at some of these places, but yeah, some towns and cities that I've covered up north of England and in Scotland as well aren't as well off as the area that I'm in now, but their football clubs are more associated with the working classes. And Saturday 3 o'clock kickoffs, here's something for you. Saturday 3 o'clock kickoffs exist because, like I was saying earlier, Saturdays were only a half day in the mill and in the factory in these working class towns. So people would have a half day, they'd finish at 12, kickoff would then be made 3 o'clock, and that gave people enough time to, there was no public transport, they had to walk to the stadium. That would give them enough time to walk to the pub, then the stadium, and then watch the football at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, which is why that time for football exists even to this day. But yes, currently I am in Fulham in the west of London. I'm just got off the tube at Putney Bridge, and you couldn't get less working class than this. You really couldn't. Where, you know, football these days is seen as a working class sport for the fans. Like I was saying, when it first well, I guess it's a lot more broader now. People who are working class and not working class love football and love the game. It's a huge global sport now. But yeah, like I was saying, it was adopted by the working classes in the late 1800s and early 1900s. But before even that, it was just for the elites, for the posh Eton boys of the time. But yeah, I'm now in Fulham, which couldn't get much different to some of the working class towns that I usually film these videos in. And I cannot wait to show you around Craven Cottage today. It's an excellent looking stadium, and it's so aesthetically pleasing and so beautiful, and they have such an amazing history again, which I will be taking you through a lot of in this video. But how are Fulham getting on this season? Well, as you can see from on screen just now, they are currently third in the Championship. They are playing Cardiff next, and I have seen them play this season against Blackpool. And if you want to keep up to date with teams like Fulham and teams pretty much all around the country, they have teams of so many different levels on One Football, then you can do that through that app. And yeah, if you download it from the top link in the description box, they'll know that it's come from this video, and they'll be really happy. But yeah, you can follow all different teams on their stardom, get push notifications on when anything happens with them. It's completely free to download, supports my channel. It's a top app. Thank you very much. And so Craven Cottage is a few hundred yards that way, I believe. I'll be going there in a second. But yeah, I'm now in a place called Bishop's Meadow, and here's what I was saying about it becoming industrialised and recreation. I just stumbled upon this. I didn't even know this was here, but during the late 1800s, suburban London expanded westwards, and the meadows and market gardens that surrounded the village, so it was a village of Fulham, were built over. The population of Fulham doubled, and the loss of open land for recreation was a concern to many. See, so late 1800s, football was just starting to rise in the UK, as was cricket and rugby, other sports. See, look, recreation was a concern to many. Yeah, people had more free time. It wasn't like the centuries of before where you were literally working to survive as much. Life was getting better, the industrialized world was coming in, people had more free time, and so places like this were needed so that people could play sport. And it's yeah, those concerns that they raised back in those days, which is probably why we have Craven Cottage in Fulham to this day. And some of the houses around here are absolutely balling, out of control. Look at them. Look at some of these gaffs. They're a little bit different to, like I say, some of the yeah, more working class clubs, you could say. Not that there wouldn't be working class fans for Fulham, of course there is. Football is a huge global sport, but in general, where this area is compared to where a lot of football clubs find themselves and what their traditions are about, it's very, very different. We're coming up to Craven Cottage now. You can see it along there, and that is the Johnny Haynes main stand, I believe, which is a stand I've been wanting to see through the lens of my cameras for a while now. It's actually an Archibald Leitch stand, one of the last remaining untouched and still listed Archibald Leitch stands, just like the main stand at Ibrox, which I've covered so much in so many of my videos. But yeah, I'm absolutely buzzing to see it. I have been to Fulham before, but that was pre-YouTube as a kid. I think I was like 16, me and a mate came to a game. But yeah, nice to come here as an adult and see it properly, especially after looking into so much of the history of this place as well. First impressions, you can actually see how similar it does look to Ibrox with its brick design, but the brick design doesn't really go far into it. As you can see from just here, look, you can see like the grey steely sort of structure of the actual stadium, and the actual part of the main stand is actually very thin. That was the that was part of Archibald Leitch's design. I will leave a link to my Archibald Leitch video below. I've done a video covering all the stadiums that he's built in his life and stuff like that, of which one is of course Fulham. But yeah, part of his design was to have the like construction, the more boring part, hidden away behind an incredible facade, which didn't need to be massive, and it isn't. It's long, it needs to cover the whole stadium, but it doesn't go in very far. These facades were just for show, really. But the main architecture and design was in behind all this stuff, which you wouldn't necessarily see. But yeah, just look at it. And right next to the main stand, which is actually named after the man who has a statue here, the Johnny Haynes stand, as you can see up there, look, it does say the Johnny Haynes stand, and here is the man himself. He is regarded as Fulham's best ever player, with over 590 appearances and almost 150 goals. He played during the 50s through to the 70s. He even played for England, and he actually got over 50 caps for England, scoring 18 goals as well. So an absolute legend of the club, and considered one of the greatest players to grace the turf here at Craven Cottage. But isn't this where the Michael Jackson statue once stood as well? You come to a lot of clubs. You come to a lot of clubs and see things that have been modernised and completely changed or whatever. But what I love about this club is look how traditional this looks. Ready? You've got the brick here, but then you've got like the painted turnstile numbers. This isn't just like some pre-made plastic thing that they've just stuck on the side of the stadium like you see at so many modern stadiums. And the ones where they do still have the traditional painting, it's crumbling, it's falling apart, but not here at Fulham. Look, again, like we said, this area of London is absolutely beautiful, but just look at the way it's kept and maintained. Yes, it's old, yes, it's traditional, but it's painted beautifully and just as Archibald Leitch would have wanted. I've asked in the club shop, I've asked in the ticket office, and they both said to come to the reception to ask for stadium tours. Fear not, this video is not over. I don't think a stadium tour is going to be available. I'm not sure, I could be wrong. I'm going to go check again in a bit, but you can actually walk all the way around the perimeter, I believe, and we'll go up towards the Thames just now and check out Fulham from the other side. But how many other stadiums do you know that started as a cottage? Yeah, this ground started as a cottage in 1780, but it opened as a stadium in 1896, hence the name, of course, Craven Cottage. The original cottage was built by a man called William Craven, hence again the name Craven Cottage, and yeah, was located around where the Johnny Haynes stand is right now. At the time, the surrounding areas that we're in now, hard to believe this part, ready? It was woods, it was all woodland, and it made up Anne Boleyn's hunting ground. Anne Boleyn, of course, I believe she was one of Henry VIII's wives. So yeah, one of Henry VIII's wives used all this area as hunting ground. But look, as you can see now, Premier League stadium there, or Championship just now, and houses and flats and stuff. So a little bit different to the olden days. So it looks like this is as far as we can come just around here for now, but I will try the other side. But look, you can see the construction going on, and how mad that they've had to build, like, put the cranes on these little pontoons, put them in the water there and have them working on the construction of the stadium, it is going to increase the capacity by, I think, around 5,000 or 6,000. Let's see if we can sneak the GoPro in. I know they're usually a little bit iffy on filming these kind of things, but you can see, look, the size of that stand going up. It'll dominate the skyline around here, as it already does. Yeah, look at that, the work is going on in there. And soon enough, Fulham are going to have a completely new looking stadium. Not completely new, but newer parts added to it anyway. But Fulham do have a really interesting history as a football club. I've not done one of these full history videos for a while, and I won't be going into everything, but the foundation and the formation is quite intriguing. But again, I'm going to try and go around the other side of the stadium, so I'll see you in 3, 2. And I believe the Fulham Football Club writing that you can see through there is the actual cottage. Again, it's such a shame that the stadium tours aren't running, so I'd love to see the cottage, but it does give me an opportunity to come back. It does give me a excuse, rather, to come back and see the cottage one day. But look, you can see it there, that original cottage, which was probably like a little lodge for hunting of what was probably a really rural area at the time, is now a few hundred years later, or 300 years later or whatever, part of a massive football club like Fulham. And talking of them as a massive club, I need to delve into a bit of their history. So I say massive club in the grand scheme of Liverpool, Arsenal, Man United, Real Madrid, Barcelona. Of course, they're not that. But compared to, I don't know, Boreham Wood, who I've seen play recently, they are quite a big club. And you can actually get a better view of the cottage just now. Look, you can see it there, right in between the stands and stuff like that. Amazing how it would have been built up around that over time, and just how traditional that thing is. Like, unbelievable, these stadiums. You just can't beat British stadiums, can you? Despite me just calling Fulham a massive club, they have only spent 27 seasons, I think, in England's top flight, and they were mainly in the 1960s and then the early 2000s, and that was under the stewardship of Mohammed Al Fayed. Yes, the owner of Harrods, who was also friends with Michael Jackson, had a statue of Jackson erected outside of Craven Cottage. They're actually a fairly unlucky club and haven't really won a huge amount of major trophies. They've had a few promotions and they've won a few lower league titles, but they've been to 2 major cup finals. One was the 1975 FA Cup final, which they lost against London rivals West Ham, and another one, and the other major final that they were in was the 2010 UEFA Cup or Europa League final. I think it was just starting to get called the Europa League then, as Roy Hodgson guided them to that, a European final, which they lost against Atletico Madrid. Atletico Madrid beat Liverpool in the semis, so we could have an all-British final between Liverpool and Fulham, but no, it was Atletico Madrid who won it that year against Fulham. So listen to this. This is what Fulham were formed as. In 1879, they were formed as Fulham St Andrew's Church Sunday School FC. So yeah, just goes to show you the origins of the club. They were formed at a church in West Kensington, I believe, and yeah, they've adapted and changed their name over time, and eventually are now just Fulham Football Club. That formation of the club in 1879 means that Fulham are currently the oldest professional football club still playing in London. So yes, there are clubs that are older in the south of England and around London and stuff, but they will be non-league, or they'll be a lot lower down in the divisions or whatever, whereas Fulham are the oldest professional club still playing here in the capital. Despite being the oldest professional club, they weren't the first club to go professional. Arsenal and Millwall, who are still around now of course, went professional before Fulham did, years before Fulham did, and it was 1898 I believe that Fulham themselves went pro, and have been ever since. But just look at this area, look how beautiful that road is leading down towards Craven Cottage. And for me, Fulham are, yeah, a pretty big club, who are a bit of a yo-yo club in my era of supporting football in England and engrossing myself in the game and just being a lover of the game in general. Fulham have been, yeah, a yo-yo club, one who have done well against Liverpool at times, my team, and not so well against Liverpool at times. I think Maxi Rodriguez might have scored a hat-trick here at Craven Cottage one year. And even on the floor here, look, we have discarded Fulham v Queen's Park Rangers ticket from Saturday the 16th of October, and I'm absolutely gutted that the tours aren't running, but I did take the risk of just turning up and finding out. But I did know that I just wanted to see the stadium anyway and take it all in and take in this lovely area of London. It's so peaceful and so nice here, especially when you're staying in the centre and then you just come out to the west. So nice. Imagine how much these gaffs cost around here. Millions. Are you a Fulham fan? Do you have any Fulham memories? Please do drop it in the comment section below. I did meet a real top legend of a Fulham fan when I saw them play Blackpool away this season. That drilling's really ruining my outro. But yeah, are you a Fulham fan? Are you associated with them in any way? Have you ever seen them play? Do let me know your Fulham memories and stuff in the comment section below. And please do hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. I make content about football clubs from all around the world. Sometimes I go inside stadiums, sometimes I go outside stadiums, sometimes I visit numerous ones in a day, sometimes it's a match day vlog. I absolutely just love football of all levels, and it would be great to see you around here more often if you are subscribed. I will leave some videos on screen. Please do click on one to carry on watching. Thank you very much from the beautiful area of Fulham here in London. Goodbye.